Well, hi, Pauline. How are you?
Hey, Kath, how are you? I'm great.
Good to see you. Where are we seeing you from?
You're seeing me from sunny and beautiful Fort Lauderdale.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. Hi, everybody else. Good to see you.
Hey, Kathy.
Vanessa in there. The star of the day. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and I see that you have a new designation. Boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. That's actually old news.
Is it? I thought so, but
I just filled it out on Facebook and then it was announcing it everywhere.
very, very handsome. Very nice. Hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Hi, Brenda. Oh my goodness.
Hi, everyone.
Big group. Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Randolph, I haven't seen you in an age. You're muted.
You're muted, Randolph.
Okay, I'm here.
What did I miss, Vanessa, about what came out at the same time? What were you just saying before I could hear?
Oh, nothing important. Just something about Facebook and my boyfriend.
Oh, I saw that.
I hope he doesn't hear that.
I don't remember what it said. I just saw the picture.
Hi, Connie.
Oh yeah, Connie's here. Welcome,
And
everyone.
Connie's here for sure. Connie's here. She's the most important.
No, Vanessa. Where's
Well,
Vanessa?
I know.
Where is she?
Never mind,
Karen.
Courtney and
Oh, there she
Karen
is.
and
Right there, center.
Hey, good to see everybody.
You needed another Zoom meeting, Karen.
I needed another Zoom meeting. And yep. I just
Hey,
got there
Karen.
early enough.
Great turnout.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
many people. This is great.
We've got 22 and
Good.
it's 7:02, so I think it's perfect time to get started. I just want everyone to know we are recording this so that we can enjoy it later on our YouTube channel.
that's
And
great.
And the plan is to have Connie introduce the residency program, and then she will introduce Anne Marie, who is Vanessa's host. And then Anne Marie will introduce Vanessa, and she will share some of her images with us, and then we'll have a Q&A at the very end. So Renee is managing the Zoom. She will mute everyone who isn't talking. And then at the end, we'll open it back up again, and we'll also have a live, you'll be able to put your questions into chat too, into the chat feature. So I'll get that started once everybody else gets started. But it's great to see you all. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, I'm Connie Vallis. Welcome to the first in a series of opening talks this year. I'm here to represent the Gedemann Artist Residency Committee. This year we celebrate 17 years since the founding of the Artist Residency by the Rocky Neck painter and teacher, Gordon Gedemann. The program is now supported in full by the Rocky Neck Art Colony organization. Gordon founded the residency in 2005, and he had a vision to bring artists to Gloucester in order to enhance the cultural experience for our local art community. And in 2010, the program was renamed to honor him. This year, our Gedemann Artist Residency Committee is currently comprised of 9 volunteer members. We're a group of local artists, educators, and curatorial professionals. I hope you'll all get your names said correctly. Yana Coffin, Anna Marie Crody, Randolph Keltz, Marie Malatesta, Barbara Moody, Ruth Mordecai, Joyce Rossler, Cynthia Roth, We, the committee, continue the tradition of selecting through a juried application process. Originally, there were 3 visual artists chosen. Over the years, there have been additional artists that have been added. In 2007, the Distinguished Artist Teacher Invitational was initiated. In 2015, the Gloucester Artist Invitational was created. And in 2017, the Installation Environmental Artist was initiated. All artists, so we have 6 artists who come to Rocky Neck. They are provided with a 4-week stay in a live-work studio apartment on Madfish Wharf in Rocky Neck. This year's artists were originally scheduled for the 2020 season, but due to the pandemic, we had to postpone all but one, the painter Sophie Tuttle, who undertook to paint a mural for the Ocean Alliance. The Ocean Alliance are our collaborators with the environment installation artists, and I encourage you all to go and view her work. This May, we have Vanessa. She is our first resident. She's the Gloucester Invitational. In June, we'll have the photographer and environmental scientist, Raphael Warshaw. In July, Perry Howard, painter originally from Marblehead, but years out in Washington State. In August, our distinguished artist teacher is Deborah Dancy, and she'll be giving 2 workshops, a 4-day workshop at the Montserrat College in Beverly, and that will be a painting workshop, and a 2-day workshop, believe it will be a drawing collage. More information will be forthcoming, and that will be at the Cultural Center. In September, we have our environmental installation artist, and that application is still open until May 15th. And after that, an artist will be chosen. So get the word out. There's still a possibility. And then come October, our last resident, Evan Morse, who's a sculptor, will come and join us. But without further ado, Anne Marie, I would love you to introduce us to Vanessa. Thank you.
Hello, Vanessa. Her actually, you say her name, Michalak. So I just wanted to make sure because I always pronounce it Michalak. Vanessa grew up in Maine and before relocating to Boston, she went to school at the University of Maine in Orono for nursing and graduated in 2004. Later in 2000, later maybe, I can't remember the exact date, but she went to school. She decided she didn't want to be just a nurse anymore and wanted to pursue her passion for arts. So she attended the Museum of Fine Arts School with a concentration in painting. She's been awarded the Mass Cultural Council Fellowship in Painting in 2014, and her work has been included in numerous exhibitions, including the MFA National Competition. She's also participated in numerous residencies, most notably Anderson Ranch Art Center in Colorado and the Playa in Summer Lake, Oregon. So those are her, credentials. So while living in Boston after graduating, she moved around a lot. Most of her landscape work at that time, early on, was done in her studio from photographs. So we had talked about, this was something that changed. We were talking about the progression of her painting and how it has changed since she's moved to Gloucester. So after that, she had done, because she traveled out, she did a whole series of paintings she called no home paintings, which she did about places where she'd lived or thought about living. And when she needed to leave the city, she used to come to Gloucester all the time. And she came a lot to Halbert Point Park to be outside, be with nature, because growing up in Maine, she loved, that was one of her main loves, was hiking and being outside. So Vanessa moved to Gloucester the summer of 2017, and she painted in various studio spaces and spent a great deal of time exploring the landscape. In 2019, she was in between studio spaces and started her Dogtown project. She painted in a section of Dogtown and then had a show of the work in its natural setting. It was truly spectacular. She spent time at the Manchester Artist Residency studio last spring when she couldn't do the residency on Rocky Neck because of COVID. And I believe it was there that she started her nursing project series, as well as painting plein air outside around the quarries and in the woods surrounding it. She now has a studio space in downtown Gloucester, where she paints when she is not working as a psychiatric nurse. So that's all I have to say. So now I'm pleased to introduce Vanessa and have her start her talk. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I can't see all your faces because I'm using my cell phone. I have a slow computer, but I'm glad there's such a big turnout. I'm going to start the talk by showing you a piece that I believe encompasses kind of the work that I was doing prior to coming to Gloucester, so that maybe stylistically working from photograph, but the subject matter is all about Gloucester. So the first slide is a painting called Whale's Jaw. And as you know, I love Dogtown. I did my Dogtown art show out in the woods, but I also love looking at old photographs of Gloucester. And as much as I love that Dogtown is a wooded area, I would love to go back in time and kind of see it how it once was and see all the big boulders and also just that horizon line that's uninterrupted that we don't get to experience now. So this piece was by looking at an old photograph that was black and white of Whale's Jaw. I think it might have been an old postcard, and just improvising on the color, which is a process I used to do when I worked from photograph in Boston when I wasn't able to paint, or I wasn't really even thinking about painting plein air so much. So I felt that this image was kind of a good combination of all the different techniques I like to use and interest in styles. And the next slide that I'm going to talk about is something the work I was making back in 2013, just to give you an idea of how the process has changed, but also, sort of things that I kind of bounce back and forth between, which is kind of pushing color into sort of an unrealistic realm. So this piece is called Home Sweet Home. And as Anne-Marie mentioned, I was moving around quite a bit. Within Boston, I probably moved like every year. So I think I lived in like 10 different apartments over the course of maybe 13 years. And also in up until today too, it's just, as many artists know, finding living space and workspace is always a challenge. So I think unconsciously, I was actually thinking a lot in graduate school, like, where am I going? Where am I going to live? Where do I want to be? And wanting to kind of escape the city. So I was looking at like all these vans and tents and sort of impermeable like dwellings in the woods. And then also just, looking at different ways of painting. So there's a lot of sort of abstraction, but always a little bit of realism too. And like I said, using different color schemes that are not natural and sort of improvising off photograph. So I wanted to show you that piece because there is a series that it's quite different if you were to look back at some previous work than the work I'm doing now. The next image, I'm not sure what's coming up on the slideshow, but if we can flip to the next slide, I will talk about that one.
I'm trying.
Okay. Courtney's been great because, like I said, my computer it's just slow and loud. So I wanted to avoid the fan that I always hear during Zoom. So, okay, yeah. So this is also another earlier piece, but again, talking about similar things. I guess what is most evident in this work, this is from 2014 or 15. Again, I'm still living in Boston, really like wondering why I'm in the city, but not sure where to go. But also more importantly, what I like about this piece is just, you can really, it's quite a large piece. It's 40 by 60 inches. It's on Yupo paper, which is a great surface for an oil painter if you don't want to go through stretching canvas and want to start a project right away, because you don't have to prime it at all. But one of the things I like about this piece is it just shows my interest in brushwork and different ways to manipulate oil paint. So there's a lot of paint thinner involved in the first layers of this piece. So there's sort of drip marks that you might see more like in a watercolor, and just really kind of figuring out like, how can I use brushes in an interesting way? And also just having that great experience of using my entire body while painting, since it is such a large piece, which I think any painter would agree that sometimes just having that large surface to work on can be so freeing. It's such an adventure, and it's really, really exciting. So that's why I chose to show that earlier piece with you, and still something that probably I would return to for sure. But this piece is from photograph. So I'm still kind of working from photographs in these earlier works. I think the next slide, we get a little bit closer to where we are now. I believe it's a piece where I'm starting into working in plein air. Yeah, so this is Anaswam Village. And so I have a great friend, Joyce Russler, who may be in the crowd, but I can't see her if she is. But I came up to visit her in Gloucester in the end of the summer in 2017. And I was lucky enough, well, because I had a friend up here and because I loved coming up to Gloucester, I decided that I would try to find a place to live and stay in Gloucester because I was done with Boston. So I ended up settling in Lanesville for the first year, but throughout that entire year, I didn't have a studio. And so I was lucky enough that Joyce did have a great third floor studio that I got to paint in all winter long. So that was a view from her studio space down overlooking Anaswam. And this is when I started to really sort of tackle plein air painting, even though I was inside, so it was a little bit easier. I wasn't dealing with all the elements, but really starting to work kind of more, I guess, traditionally than I had worked before and not working from photograph. And just because I was painting from that same vantage place, I ended up with a pretty cohesive body of work that was about Anaswam Village. And I mentioned that just because cohesiveness in bodies of work has always been, I don't know whether to call it problematic, but a challenge for me because I have a lot of different interests and I have a lot of different ways that I like to work. I like to work pretty abstractly too. So sometimes I need something to structure me, like some sort of constraint, and maybe not having a studio to really work from might have worked out well for this body of work, because I was kind of forced to, keep looking at the same place and keep painting about that one area in Gloucester. So I thought that was a nice piece to sort of transition from sort of the older work to the newer work. And I guess we can move on to the next slide. So this is, I thought this shot of my working in Dogtown would be kind of interesting for everybody to see. So like I mentioned before, it's always a struggle to find studio space that's workable. And since I do work in oils, working at home doesn't really, it's not so healthy. So the outdoors is the best place to be. And I wanted to work large again. So I thought to myself, where can I go in Gloucester where nobody is going to bother me and I can have a lot of space? And the only thing I could really think of was Dogtown. So I ended up finding this little section that was, it's from the Cherry Street entrance as you would go towards the municipal compost pile. And there's a little trail that's fairly close to there. So you can walk in with your supplies. You don't have to walk in too far, although it is about a mile. And I would lug my canvas, and this is I think a 36 by 48 inch canvas into this section where there was a little clearing and a meadow. And I guess, well, with this painting, I didn't want to carry the easel too, so I just made an easel in the woods out of the rocks that I found in the area, which obviously there's numerous amounts of rocks and sticks, and that's how I ended up making that painting. And so the whole thing was, a little bit improv, meaning, I didn't really have much of a plan other than I wanted space and I wanted to be outside. And then I just used what was around me to support that cause. But it actually was a lot of fun. And when I look at this photo, it just reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to play in the woods and make forts. And I don't know, it looks very pleasing. It's like almost like I'm having a picnic or something out there. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to share with you all. And you probably can't see in the background too, there's a tiny little painting that's hanging on a tree. So I think from this process of working out in the woods, I started to think, oh, it might be really cool to show these paintings in the woods, which I have the museum school to thank for. Just, it's a very conceptual school, and I wouldn't consider myself a super conceptual painter. Like I really actually like to work plein air and more traditionally, I'm interested in some of these like sort of older impressionist, expressionist sort of painting, but some of the ideas about installing work, being at the museum school somewhere that is more conceptual, it does open up your mind to like different ways of showing work. So I didn't really feel like I had to do a gallery show to get this work out into the world. And so after that, I think we jumped to some newer work in the presentation. Yeah, so this is from last summer. So I kind of started to think about, what do I want to be painting? Obviously in 2020, I did ask myself that, and part of me just really wanted to go into this sort of escapist mindset that, I love being an escapist. Like it's a lot of fun. I like to imagine being somewhere else, whether it's a different place or maybe creating a place. So this is a place I think it's also in Dogtown, but it's through the Rockport entrance over by the little Babson cottage. There's an open field there. So I ended up painting there a lot just because I wanted to sort of escape the bad news. And so painting plein air is wonderful for that, because I feel it's such a meditation in itself. You're just really focused on what you're seeing and the light. And then maybe in most of my work, I do sort of play with color a little bit. So this piece isn't entirely realistic, but I am making an effort to really, capture the light patterns at that time of day. And also, some of the foliage, the forms are fairly realistic as to what I was seeing, whereas the color kind of deviates a little bit. but I was working on, sort of a lighter, happier body of work in conjunction with something a little bit more heavy, which we will get to a little bit further along. But it's just one of the pieces that I thought sort of illustrated that attempt to, even though we were all going through such a difficult time, to, see what was going well. And what always goes well is the spring after winter. And I just found that nature, it can't be swayed. It doesn't matter if there's a pandemic, like it's always going to be beautiful. So just making an effort to be outdoors and tuning into that when things were stressful was really important to me. And I think I have one more piece that's from that field, which it was very convenient for me to work there. It was a little bit easier to get to than where I had been working previously in Dogtown. So this piece is a little bit different from the others because it's not an oil painting, which I really love oils, but a friend of mine introduced me to acrylic gouache last year, which is sort of the opposite as far as drying time. It dries very, very quickly, faster than acrylic. I mean, you're barely done mixing and it's already dry. So that was, I wouldn't say it was difficult, but it was different. I kind of like to work fast in oils. So this medium worked well, but it was definitely a change. But I really like the vibrance you can get in the color in this medium. And you can work on, any surface, but this happens to be on canvas. And just, again, another sort of piece that it was just a great sort of, call it what you will, like a coping mechanism to sort of escape, like, everything that was going on in the world at the time. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the talk, I am a nurse and I'm still working in the field. So it was a great way for me to sort of escape that atmosphere. And then the last few slides talk a little bit more about different body of work that I'm working on currently. And I'll probably do at least one portrait while I'm at the residency, but I started a series of nursing portraits this year. And I was going to include a slide or a painting from 2012, because it's not the first time I've painted about nursing. I did that like about 10 years ago when I started graduate school, but they were more self-portrait based. Whereas this work really just talks about, what it means to be like a nurse during 2020 and 2021. And I felt it was really important actually to share less about my experience and try to get the perspectives of a lot of other nurses. So I actually work in inpatient psychiatry, which, I mean, every field in nursing, I mean, every field in general. I mean, I was teaching last year during the pandemic too. I was teaching art. So I really sympathize with educators as well during this time. But I mean, everybody's been affected, but I thought it was just really an important time to shed some light onto the nursing profession. And I thought that, visually, I was in a great position to do that. So I asked friends of mine in the field and also people I didn't know through social media to send me their selfies and also a little bit of writing about their experience, because I really want to, put together an exposition where I can show all the work together, but also the writing that, the nurses have sent to me to share a little bit about their personal experiences. So this is my friend Jen. She's a float nurse at Brigham and Women's, and she sent me some great photos, but I chose to work from this photo because her hair was just crazy and it just showed such complete exhaustion that I thought it was a really great way to illustrate what she was going through. And then I have one more image and then I have an installation shot of the work together. But yeah, my hope is that through this body of work, it's, even though I feel in many ways the pandemic is behind us, it's not behind, you know, in other parts of the world, it's still very much an issue. So, you know, even if my friends who are in nursing and working in direct care of COVID patients, there's so many healthcare workers around the world that are just overwhelmed in ways that I just can't even fathom. So even though it's, you know, in the United States and especially Massachusetts, since we've done such a great job sort of containing things in so many other places, nurses and other healthcare workers are just so vital. So I wanted to include this body of work at the end of this talk. Just, I'm not to be depressing, but to really honor, you know, the profession that, you know, I'm a nurse and an artist, and to really honor that profession and nurses around the world, and also in honor of Nurses Week, which is next week. And I just have one more shot of some of these portraits. I wanted to show the scale because I did make them fairly large, which is just part of the concept of really showing like my appreciation for these people. And I felt that the most, as an artist, the best way I could do that was through portraiture and something of maybe a larger scale. So I guess that's all I have. But I mean, I welcome any questions, and thank you for letting me share my work with you.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
I think this is a wonderful talk, and I really appreciate it so much, Vanessa, because it really highlights what the program is all about, to give you time to continue your project. We're so proud of the residency program. I would like to ask you about your landscape work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for someone like me, it couldn't be more difficult to think about trying to work outside in the elements. And there you are making an easel out of rocks and wood. So can you talk a little bit about how you can stand it with bugs and ticks? And I remember a coyote story. So.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I mean, really, I don't know if I was talking with Anne-Marie yesterday. I don't think necessarily my favorite paintings come from being outside, but you know, as the weather gets better, I really have a difficult time being indoors. So it's just, I mean, I guess like the other stuff, I'm just like, that's okay. Like, I just really want to be outside. Like you know, the winter's been so long. I want vitamin D, but I guess, you know, there are things that, you know, you learn, and pointers that make it easier, you know, working large scale outdoors. Like, I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing. I just really like impulsively wanted to be out there. So I think I just had that longing to do that, maybe just because of the way I was brought up, and, you know, being from Maine, I guess that makes it a little bit easier. But I mean, there are things that you have to be careful about. Like you mentioned ticks, and yeah, I always made sure to wear, you know, long pants, and I always bring sunscreen and all those sort of practical things, and sound making machine, like sort of a blow horn thing for the woods, because I did encounter a coyote that, I mean, apparently they don't attack people, but it was a little nerve-wracking because he had been watching me for quite a while before I, you know, had the feeling that something was watching me, and wasn't too far off. But in the end, you know, nothing happened. But that prompted me to be like, okay, like I need to have a whistle or something. And, you know, plus like being out in the woods, like, I mean, I hate to say, like, as a woman, you have to be careful, but it is a reality. I always feel kind of thankful that I'm a tall, athletic person, so I don't feel all that frightened, but I know my mother is frightened for me sometimes. But yeah, I think what carries me through a lot of the challenges is I love being in nature. So, it's always a fight. Like, am I going to go into the studio or am I going to be outdoors? And if I can combine, the two loves, painting and the outdoors, then I'm going to try to find a way to do it. So,
Well, it shows beautifully, honestly.
oh, thank you, Kathy.
The looseness and the vibrance of the colors that you get from outdoors, truly, you can see you're so happy to be there. It
Oh,
just
thank you.
comes through. So thank you.
Vanessa.
Hi.
Hi, it's Leslie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, thanks. So I enjoyed your talk, and I wanted to tell you I really love the nurses' portraits, being a nurse myself, and I was a psych nurse for 10 years. So I totally love those portraits. And I think I really like the size of them and the fact that you just basically focused on their faces and their hair and the masks instead of doing the entire body, because it really emphasized the emotion that they're going through. And the other thing I wanted to ask you was, what do you think you're going to do down at the wharf there? Or do you think your color palette's going to change? Do you think you'll be painting outside as the weather gets nice, or what do you think?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because I forgot to mention it, but I really want to take advantage of being in this neighborhood, because I actually haven't done a lot of painting on Rocky Neck. I've painted in a lot of different places in Gloucester, but I think I made my first actual Rocky Neck paintings today. So yeah, I want to do plein air painting, and I've also been thinking about, like I mentioned, I want to continue with the nurse paintings, because I only want to work on them until the fall, because I'd like to put that behind me, as we all want to put this behind us. So so I'll probably do a couple of those as well, but I also just want to do sort of an epic painting about Gloucester that might involve a different process. Like, I really actually like doing collage work as well. So I've been kind of thinking about putting together multiple images that talk about the variety of Gloucester's landscapes, and also sort of the touristic things that I think are kind of funny and quirky about Gloucester, like the windmills that you see at the Rotary, just like stuff that I pass by. And I don't know why I think it's kind of silly, but it just defines like, our home. So things that, I might sort of put them together all in one canvas in a more abstract way. I think that would be kind of an interesting, larger piece to work on while I'm here. And I think the palette's already changed a little bit with the coming of spring. I'm starting to get some lighter, and brighter spring-like colors, but also the way that the buildings are here and down in Rocky Neck, and being able to observe the light reflecting from the water. Like, there's a brightness that I wasn't always seeing in different parts of Gloucester that I'd like to sort of depict while I'm here. So those are some of the ideas.
Do you think you'll be doing like the streets of Rocky Neck, or do you think you're going to be looking out at the cove and the harbor?
I think I'll do a little bit of both. I didn't set up today because wind is always an issue for painting outdoors. I've gotten used to the cold a little bit, but wind is always a challenge. So, and then just finding a place that, because a lot of the things I want to paint are kind of in the middle of the street. But yeah, I'd like to paint the neighborhood too. I think it's just a really special place. And I love the Imagine Gallery and the ice cream shop and all those colorful sailor stands, all those colorful buildings. Just be really fun in a painting. So
maybe you got to sneak your version of that Edward Hopper house in one of your. Do you know which one I'm talking about? That big one over on Horton Street with he sold it back in the 1920s, and it has awnings on it. Do you know? It's like an iconic Edward Hopper.
Well, I'm gonna have to find it.
It's big. It's a big, I think it has a mansard roof. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah,
Please
I
go
love
over there.
mansard roofs, so
Have fun over there.
thank you.
I'll help you find it. It's right near me. It's Ruth
Okay.
talking.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
want
I'd
to
love
meet you anyway, like, just to talk. So that'd be good.
Yeah, for sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, this is Janice.
Hi, Janice.
You're going to be in the Gedemann studio on Madfish Wharf.
Oh, great.
Working away. And do you know, would you have any times that you can think of, probably not right now, but that you might be open in an afternoon that people can come drop by and see what you're working on, not to interfere or bug you, but we're all very curious about your process. So
Yeah.
times that you knew you might be open, we could put them in the newsletter or let people know that that would be a good time to drop by and say hello.
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't get all my nursing shifts off, so I have a few days I actually have to work, but for the most part I am here. But I'm hesitant to say right away, but yeah, there'll definitely be some afternoons, or even if I can even give you a location where I'm outside or something working.
Yeah.
Let us talk to you about that to help you set it up, because I don't want you to get over visited.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful about, just setting up some times that really work for you.
Yeah. No, it's always a good thing to consider, especially because when I am outside, I tend to be.
Well, you only have a month. You only have a month, so
I know
it goes fast.
It does go fast.
Vanessa, I have a question. I'm Barbara Moody.
Oh, hi, Barbara.
I really enjoyed your talk.
Thank you.
You had such a unique combination of being a nurse and creating these paintings of nurses during this unbelievable time of COVID. So I'm wondering, have you been able to find a venue to show these paintings? I feel like they should be in Washington, D.C. or something.
Well, thank you. That's flattering. I haven't found a venue. I've been kind of asking around. My idea was that I would like to show them somewhere in Boston, just because there's so many of the nurses are working in the area. So I thought it'd be great for them to be able to actually see their portraits in person. But yeah, I'm still searching for a venue, and I have thought about applying to certain things, but I really want the work to be together and to be shown together. So I've been a little bit, I wouldn't say picky, because I haven't had lots of offers or anything, but I feel like it does have to be the right place. Especially I want to, just show them all together. So it kind of has to be like a sort of a solo venue, I think. So that's been a little bit challenging to find the right place, but yeah, I don't know if anybody has any ideas. Let me know.
I do, Vanessa. It's Leslie again.
Hi, Leslie.
MGH has the Illuminations program, and they'll hang an entire body of your work in one space, and it's a rotating exhibit, and it's like every 3 or 4 months. I can send you the woman's email.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful spaces down there to show work, and they're all about art. They love having artists in their in the hospital.
Cool. The only thing the reason I haven't really reached out to hospitals is I want to share the writing of the nurses. So I don't know. That's why I've kind of, I definitely would consider MGH, but I also want to be able to really share the words of some of the people's experience. So that's why I feel like it could be difficult to show in a healthcare setting. I worry about censorship in that way. So that's the only thing that's kind of held me back from reaching out to somewhere like MGH, just because I want the nurses to be able to share their experience freely. And I know that, it hasn't always been easy to, work for certain organizations. So that's where it can get a little bit difficult, but I don't know, it needs to be shown. And I feel like it needs to kind of be shown by the fall. So, hopefully I'll figure out something that works.
How do I unmuted. Can I talk now? I don't know. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
Hi. I feel like I know you.
Do we know each other? I don't know.
Did you know Luca? No.
Yeah, from museum school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we were in the same, we went to postbachelor.
Yeah, you were next door. You were next door for a while.
Oh, okay.
Then
All
Maria.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you? There you are. You're up there. Yeah. Because I recognize your work too. You were in Vermont. You were going to Vermont. Anyway, what I was thinking, and maybe you probably already thought of this, is the universities. Simmons, Leslie.
Yeah, no, I've thought about that. It's just I guess it's just a matter of reaching out. But yeah, that actually was.
You went there.
What was that?
Tufts.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
My school. So no, I think in some ways that's a little bit more like what I'm looking for. Almost like an education sort of educational piece. And maybe something that is a little bit more neutral, that's maybe not in a healthcare setting. But yeah, I just gotta write some letters.
Yeah.
Can't just paint all the time.
So not a gallery setting, would that not be right?
I think a gallery would work too, but yeah, I just, I think I haven't, I've been focusing on making the body of work so that people really understand what it is I want to do. But now I think, so I kind of held back on applying to things. But now I'm in the position where I do think, the work needs to be shown by a particular time, but people already have things sort of slated in their, like their exhibition. So I'm just like, oh boy, I need to figure this out fast. So,
Vanessa,
but yeah, I mean,
how did you obtain the writing from the nurses?
I asked them to share anecdotes. So I left it pretty open because I wanted it to be sort of a therapeutic experience for them. So I said, you could write a poem. I've kind of pushed people to be creative if they feel like they want to go in that direction. Because I thought, I want it to be an art show. It's art, and writing is art, and I wanted them to be able to really express themselves. So some people really ran with that and wrote some, beautiful. So beautiful writing that I think without that, it just wouldn't be my vision. And it also, I don't think would be, very, portraits in visual art does one thing, but I think sometimes tied with really powerful words that, can, be even better. So, and also just be sort of about them and celebrating them. I just felt like I was in a position to really do that. So yeah, that's why the writing piece I'm holding on to that, and finding a place where I can
Do both.
Do both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Vanessa, it's Leslie again, then I'm going to be quiet.
It's okay.
There's one more suggestion about the nursing portraits, because I think they're so powerful. What about going to approach the American Nurses Association for their next conference, their national conference? Because I think nurses need to see your work. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that would be a great idea. And I wouldn't, mind if, the body of work traveled to different, sort of venues that are like that. Cause the nurses that when I've completed their portraits, they've been so thankful and just so, people have written to me about just almost being in tears, because I think what, I think in every profession where you're kind of like, I liken it to teaching too, because I have done a little bit of teaching as well, but it's, you're these sort of jobs where you're really serving humanity. Sometimes like you just don't hear thank you for the work. And especially this year, I think nurses really need to hear that. And, I'm guilty of, when people say, wow, thank you, I'm like, oh, well, I'm not really doing anything. I'm a psych nurse. Like, I haven't really treated a COVID patient. But I think it is, like, even if somebody who's a nurse who's saying that, I think, I still think you should say thank you to them, because I don't even think, I think people just get used to doing their jobs and like the level of stress. And like, I can't imagine working like in the ICU. Like, I've never been able to handle that as a nurse. That's never the type of nursing I could do. But, it's been an incredibly stressful year. So, I don't know, I think I'm going on a tangent about that, but, I think, yeah, putting it in a place to, where nurses can see the work, it would just be, a really great way to really thank them and honor them in a way that, many people really haven't heard that thank you in a way that where people feel that they really, I don't want to talk badly about administration and hospitals, but like, basically, like, in all employment, like there are people who are working, sort of right on the front of lines, and then the people who are a little bit further away. And sometimes it's hard to understand each other's roles. And so I think, by painting the nurses and like sharing their words, I just, I want people to understand their experience, but I also want them to like see that, there's somebody here, even if it's just another nurse that like, understands you and hears you. Because I think, being a psych nurse, like, one of the things we always, kind of talk about it, with our, treating our patients is, what can you do for your patient? And one of the small things you can do, especially in the psychiatric field, is, to allow someone to feel heard and validated. And that's just so healing. So I think, giving that back to a profession and like, kind of allowing them to like get a little bit of mental health treatment is just like so important right now. So
Absolutely.
yeah. But yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Vanessa, am I on?
You're on.
Really? Stephen, am I the lone male here?
Maybe.
Hi.
Hi. Beautiful work. As soon as I saw it, that we could look on tonight, I admired your work. It seems so spontaneous. Do you end up painting rather quickly?
Yeah, I guess for like the smaller plein air pieces, like, it works for me because I tend to be kind of a faster painter. Although, some of the larger works, like that plein air piece I showed out in the woods, like I did bring that back into the woods like 3 or 4 times in different stages. So there's actually like
the one that was on the stone.
Yeah. And that was
very very spontaneous and very immediate, beautiful work, and a lot of variation, which is a great accomplishment. On the subject of the nurses' portraits, I think it should be the evening news. They feature people who have died all the time, every night, and this would be a beautiful program with you featured also, and some of what they have written about themselves. It's a perfect thing for the general public to see on the news. That's where I think it should be. So
well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I guess I've been a little bit shy about reaching out to, publicize it more, but
that depends on whether you want that to be that kind of venue for it. But
yeah,
I think
I think the general public is, like who I have meant the work for in a way, but also like, we talked about with Leslie, like, the nurses as well. So yeah, anything that encompasses both.
Congratulations. It was a delight to see your work
Wonderful.
tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I have to mute myself back.
Vanessa, it's Brenda. I just want to say I've admired your work since Lauren first introduced me to you a few years ago, and I love your palette. I love your big, thick, chunky, fast-looking strokes, and it's really exciting to see some of your older pieces this evening, and to see what direction you're heading. And I'm excited to see what we get to experience at your closing talk. And I hope you have a really good time here.
Thank you, Brenda. I might be stopping by. Maybe I'll make a thing. I want to paint your gallery. I want to do a painting of your place.
You're welcome to.
How many nurses painting are there? How many paintings are there of the portraits of nurses?
I think I've done 9, and I would like to maybe do. I have a few more people lined up, and I think it'll probably be around 15 where I call it quits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that'll be max, because I mean, I just, the thing that's difficult for us all is like, you know, part of me doesn't really want to think about the pandemic like at all. But I also, you know, I really like painting portraits too. So, so it's just, but you know, I do feel like I have, I've got a timeline for this project, you know, it's for the times, and, you know, I will be happy to kind of put it behind me as well, because, you know, I love focusing on the landscape too. And, yeah. But,
well, I was thinking of Jared Bowen on Fridays, the arts program. I just think he'd love it. Does anybody know that program?
I don't know if I don't know it.
Jared Bowen? No?
It's really good.
I know it. Out of Boston. He's out of Boston.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's called Open Studio.
Yeah,
yes.
It's on Friday nights. He's wonderful.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
I agree. I think that's a great idea.
I'll have to you'll have to reach out to him. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen it. Is it like a local access?
No,
Channel 5. It might be like one of the major.
It's Channel 5. Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's
Oh,
on
yeah.
PBS.
No, it's on PBS.
it is?
It's on PBS
Okay.
on Friday night, 8:30.
Okay.
And he'll cover our you know, like dancing, music,
Yeah.
artists, you know, painters, museum shows, but local.
Yeah. No,
So,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
On the news on PBS every night at 6 o'clock with Judy Woodruff, they often have a segment that's called My Brief But Spectacular Take on Whatever. And it's about artists and all kinds of people and it's very short, but it's just a little, you know, they go, my brief but spectacular take on whatever. And there's a little segment that tells about you and whatever. So that might be a great venue for you too.
Yeah, no, thank you, everybody.
Vanessa, I have one more question. I think your drawing, even in your landscapes and especially in the portraits, is just magnificent. So how did you learn to draw, and did your schooling help you with those skills?
Oh, well, thanks. I never really thought of myself as a drawer. Because I actually feel like I struggle with drawing a little bit. Maybe that's why I paint, but I mean, I guess like, I mean, I love gesture drawing. And so like with me too, like I tend to be pretty impulsive when I get my brush. So I think maybe there's a quality, I guess, you know, other people have mentioned like the mark I make is sort of a calligraphic mark. Like there's some sort of finality to like the way I'm handling the, you know, but I don't know. I think it's just like, it's either all or nothing for me. Like either I'm going to dive in and try to like make the line, or I'm going to be afraid of making the line. So maybe it's just that sort of energy that is coming across.
Do you feel in the portraits you have to do a lot of correction with the proportion, or does that just come naturally to you?
I mean, I actually feel like it's a little bit easier for me to work at a larger scale with the portraits because I tend to want to use my whole arm. I think it's harder for me to work in details. So I think the scale actually might help with some of that. I mean, you do have to size up a little bit, which can be tricky, but I think it's actually more difficult for me to draw smaller. So, and I don't know why, really. My mom would say, like, well, when you were a kid, you had an immature pencil grip. Like, I used like my whole hand. So maybe I got used to using my arm because I couldn't do like the fine motor. Yeah, I used like all 5 fingers for a long time. Yeah, but I don't know. It's funny. I don't really think of myself as, I definitely think of myself as a painter, and I always say, oh, this would be better if I could draw better. So thank you.
Vanessa again, Stephen. I have a question about the van in the woods. The van in the
Oh, the van in the woods. Yeah.
there's a little slippery kind of watercolor-like figure sitting.
Yeah.
But I also saw a very tall woman to the left, higher than the van, in the long dress, the head above the van. Of course, that's just me seeing it, but did you see that figure there too? Like
I'm gonna have to go back and look because I don't know if I've ever seen that figure. I think I was probably trying to make a tree.
I definitely see another figure, like something from your future or something like that. But of course,
Cool.
That's just my vision or my imagination.
Yeah, no, that's great though.
It's a little bit behind the other one to the left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions? There was some great, Vanessa, there's some great comments in the chat, so I'll make sure you get a copy of those.
Okay, thank you.
And other good gallery suggestions.
Yes, that's helpful. Yeah.
And this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I don't know if Anne Marie or Connie have any last words, but thank you for being here.
I thought it was great, and I look forward to her closing talk on the 27th of May, Thursday.
Thank you.
Yes, and I look forward
Enjoy,
to just
Vanessa.
meeting you because I've never really
Yes.
met you. So
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Just wonderful.
And I just want to say, I didn't mention that, having moved up from Boston, such a big art community in the city, but it's been really great to be in Gloucester because everybody's been so welcoming. Felt like, everybody supported my lack of having a studio. Like, everybody was just, the last few years has been great. So many different organizations have helped me. So I just wanted to say thank you. There's so many people out there who've helped me just be where I am right now. So thank you.
Well deserved.
Yes, very well deserved. Thank you, Courtney and Anne Marie. That was great.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.